Let me get a heat check, heat check, heat check, heat check, heat check, heat check, heat. Can I get a heat check, 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 heat check. Let me get a heat check, heat check, heat check, heat check.
Hello, SML. Welcome back. It's been a few weeks. 48-hour advances and busy summer schedules has had it a little tougher to record, but Heat Check is back just in time for what matters. It's the playoff edition. I'm here with my usual co-host and content guru, the Mad Bomber. What's up, buddy?
Oh, just getting ready for this off season. I know we got the playoffs and everything, but I'm excited for the rest of it as well.
Yes, it is an exciting time in the SML. We're going to have a little bit of Madden 21 talk with the playoffs. We're going to have some Madden 22 talk, looking ahead at some rosters. So it should be a good show here.
All right, so let's jump into the playoffs then, because this is the big thing going on right now, and this is the EA playoff bracket that we have pulled up right now. So how accurate this is going to be, we'll see. I know DW's got a game coming up that could affect some stuff, but let's just say these matchups are correct. Other than the NFC wildcard matchup, I think we're going to see Clink taking over Meats after their week 16 games. So we'll put Clink in there at 7th seed, but everything else will leave the same. So first game up in the wild card, we've got DW against Dan. What are you thinking for this game?
Man, I'm bummed personally. I was very excited to see DW really kind of improve his game this year. He's Daddy Leagues is freaking out on me, so I just went to pull up his team and it decided it didn't want to do it. But yes, anyway, back to DW. I feel like he's really shown a good amount of improvement. We did make a trade. He added Irv Smith, and I feel like it's kind of helped his passing game along. Still looking good stats wise. Defense obviously studly, but man, a Dan draw in the first round is just such bad luck. He already plays him, twice a season for the last few seasons, so it's not even like he has the element of surprise on Dan. It's Madden. We've seen crazier. Anything can happen. I gotta say, I'm probably rooting for DW. Sorry, Dan, but I do think Dan's gonna end up taking this one in the end.
Yeah, DW's played him tough, and that's probably a lot of that can be attributed to his team and his play style. I don't know how often you've played the Chargers, probably twice, like I've played every NFC team, but
Yes.
that front seven is pretty nasty. You got
Uh-huh.
Bosa there, you got Sweat there, and then Kenneth Murray at linebacker. So it's a really good defense. You don't have to do much except let the computer kind of just don't get in your own way. Don't pull a
Yes.
Latin or a Figs and pull a guy out of the play. So defensively, he can pretty much slow everybody down for the most part. And then offensively, he's got that running back. I think it's McCord now is his running back.
Out, I think.
McLeod, maybe that's it. Maybe next year it's not going to work out so well because there's going to be fatigue and stuff like that built in. But right now, I think he's once again leading the league in carries. He ran Eckler into the ground when he was there, and he's just picking up right where he left off with this new running back. So he's going to be able to stay in the games. The problem is, like you said, they've played each other so many times. Dan knows what to expect, and preparing for this game should be fairly easy. You're not going to expect too much new. DW did pick up Irv Smith in that trade with you, so that could change his offense a little bit. I've noticed he's thrown to him a lot more. But at the end of the day, Dan knows what to expect, and if Dan knows what to expect from you, he's a tough out, and I expect him to win this game. All right. So moving on, the next matchup would be Matt and Pauly. I don't know which team's going to end up being the home team because I think they just flip-flop spots depending on who wins the division. But what do you think for Matt and Pauly?
Well, next Madden, the home field advantage might actually make a difference. This Madden, it makes no difference whatsoever. Yeah. Yes, this is another divisional matchup, which is kind of crazy. You're gonna get two of those in the same conference here. Lots of history here, obviously. Pauly has complained about Matt's play style. Obviously, very difficult to stop, especially in a playoff game where possessions become so important. Another interesting thing too is when both these teams get to the playoffs, they tend to go into their shell here, telling us how bad they are and how they're going to lose and they don't have a shot. They're just happy to be here. They just hope they keep the game close. So very interested to see, how they play each other. I feel like history has favored Matt, but I believe Paulie swept Matt this season. Um, so I don't really know what's going on with these two. I feel like this game is truly a coin flip. Looking at recent games, actually, it looks like they split
Yeah,
this
they
season.
split, and the one that Paulie won was against the computer.
Okay, so we'll see. Yeah, I feel like history is favored Matt in this matchup a little bit. Um, but also Paulie has shown slightly better playoff success, I think, outside of games where he might line himself up to play prime, then he loses. Um, so I think I'm gonna take Paulie, but really this one can go either way.
Yeah, it can. And like you said, history kind of favored Matt. Recent history, anyway, favors Matt. But if we're going to use recent history, just last season, I think Matt ended up winning the division as well, or he was second in the division. I can't remember if he ended up pulling it out, but either way, the two met it in the playoffs after Paulie got beat by Matt in the regular season, and he put him away pretty easily. And now this year, Paulie's got that rookie running back that he seems to really like. He likes him more than Hines, which, I mean, he paid a steep price to get Hines early in the cycle. And
One of the steepest.
as soon as Breida goes away, we got this rookie running back who he seems to be doing really well with. I think he's currently second in the Offensive Player of the Year in the AFC, and he's doing really well with that guy.
Yeah, it looks like 1,479 yards, 27 touchdowns with 6.9 yards a carry.
Yeah, and they both play a very similar style, but I'm gonna give the edge to Paulie because I think he's got a better passing game. Both of them play that kind of real cautious passing game, but Matt kind of gets in his head, and next thing you know, he's opening it up with Drew Lock, and I think Paulie's gonna do better at sticking to his game plan and playing conservative, and I think Paulie's gonna pull this one out.
Yeah, Paulie is a great game plan maker. I have noticed that in games that I've played against him is, he comes out with certain things he wants to attack and he will stick to that.
Yeah. So our last game in the AFC in the first round is going to be the Browns and the Colts. And I say the Browns because currently they're at the top, if you want to call it the top of the AFC North. But realistically, anybody except KJ could be in this spot. I could see, two-step
And
winning
even
out.
KJ is not that far back.
Yeah, I could see the Ravens winning out with the computer. And this game, I think it's not going to matter. Woods is giving away all his good players to Prime anyway, so I think maybe the Ravens computer team might actually have a better chance in this game. Last time these two teams matched up in the playoffs, it was like 45-0. And I think this could go the same way, possibly worse.
Yeah, Woods, love you. Great guy. You're dope. Enjoy Jacksonville next season. You don't got a shot in this one. Prime taking it.
Yeah. All right, so with that would put it looks like it would be me and Paulie and then Dan and Prime. So what do you think about me and Paulie?
You and Paulie, good game for sure. I think there's a lot of potential there. It's one that would be very exciting to watch. I think Paulie would struggle against your defense. Your defense is very good. You can shut down the run or at least contain it enough that Paulie would have to put the ball in the air, and from there I think you can just take over. He would have a tough time keeping up with all your receivers. Hendricks is spinning people into oblivion. I just think at the end, I think the teams are just too imbalanced. I think that's where the team building aspect of things will really kick in, and I think you take that one by I'm gonna go with 10 points.
Yeah, I think I've kind of learned to try and play a little more conservative against Paulie because I think that's the way to beat him, as Matt's shown. And so I think as long as I could continue to play conservative against him, I'd pull out that game. Like you said, the teams, when you stack them up against each other, aren't really that even. So as long as I can keep it close, I feel like I have the advantage.
Yes.
All right, so the next one would be Dan and Prime. Lots of talk about how Prime is in Dan's head and he's just beating up on him. But then they have a Week 17 matchup, and Prime's already talking about he's not going to play his starters. Doesn't want to even give Dan the chance to beat him and have something to say. And I think that may be because Prime knows that he isn't going to be able to take Dan this season. What do you think?
I mean, this is the matchup the whole SML wants to see. It's a bit of the main event. So much talk, so much back and forth. Obviously, Dan gives and takes as well, but Prime has had the big advantage recently. One thing that's going to be interesting to watch in that game is obviously, the way to beat Prime is definitely with, the run game. You got to stick with it. You have to stay patient. Even when it's not working quite off the bat. Dan has spent this entire season passing the ball, the whole season. Trying to hit 5K. He is going to just miss it. I don't want to brag about, my defense contributing to that, but it did. I'm interested to see if the run game stalls out a little quicker than Dan's used to. Does he default to going to the pass immediately? And then on the other hand, is Prime a little too cocky? Because Prime has had a lot of recent success, and we've seen games where Prime will come out and maybe he's not quite as laser focused in. I feel like this happened against you earlier in the season. He tried going to the pass, going to the air a little too early, and it burned him, and you kind of kicked the crap out of him. So there's a lot of cool storylines in this game. I think I don't really want to pick Prime, but also there's not a lot of reasons to not pick Prime. So I'm going to pick Prime.
Yeah, and if we're going by, history, like we said with Matt and Paulie, same thing applies here. He has had Dan's number. Now I know Dan argues that, it's been close or it's been overtime or something. Man, but if you're close every time and you're on the opposite side of that every time, there's something to that. If you're losing every coin flip, the game might be rigged. It's not. It should even out if it's really that close, and it's not. And I've had the same issues with Dan. We'll play close games, but they always seem to go on his side. So I think Prime has his number. But Dan's good enough, and he's been to the Super Bowl that I don't think that'll get in his head too much. But Prime's going to play it up the whole time leading up to the game. It's going to be in chat. Hell, it might be in DMs. It'll be in 35 different videos. And he's going to play it up and do what he can to get in his head. And I think it's just going to wear on Dan. And between Madden 22 coming out, we're going to be right up against the 10-hour trial. And I don't know if Dan can put that down long enough to really get ready for Prime, despite all the talking Prime's going to do, which is coming. So I think it's going to be Prime in this one. And I think it's going to be, I want to say a 2-score game. I don't think it comes down to overtime or a last possession. I think Prime really wants to lock up this cycle as kind of, controlling Dan. And I think he comes out and has a really good game.
I will say I definitely think it's close. Regardless of which team wins, I do think this is going to be like a 3-4 point game. Also, historically, Dan does not use the 10-hour trial as soon as it comes out. He usually stacks it with the early access. So inside the mind, a little insider information.
So maybe I could be off, or Madden 22 is going to be the difference. I don't know. I don't even know if Dan's got a PS5 now anyway, so it might not matter.
Yeah, it might not be here in time actually.
But all right, so that would bring me and Prime playing for the AFC Championship. Pretty familiar spot for me. But I think this year I get past Prime if Prime's the one I face. I've had pretty good success against him this season, the cycle as a whole. But I almost wonder if I beat him too badly the first 2 games that he's going to be really locked in for this one if this is how the matchups go. But again, I feel like my team is playing at probably the best that it's been all cycle. Defensively, I may have taken a step back from a couple of seasons ago where I got beat by Woods in the playoffs. But all around, I think my team is in the best spot it's been in. I kind of ignored my offense for the first 6-7 seasons, and now I finally realized that maybe I need some good players on offense. So I went out and grabbed Ingram, Beckham, and Green, and Beckham and Green or Beckham and Ingram are leading my team in touchdowns. They've got like a bunch of catches each. They're both making huge contributions. For whatever reason, I can't do anything with Chark after the first season, but I think this is the best my team's playing, and for once, I'm going to pick myself to win this.
I like the confidence. Yeah, so I'm here for that, and I think I was expecting us to disagree on a couple more of these AFC matchups, and we didn't at all. But
Yeah.
I think what is going to set this game apart from the rest of your games in the playoffs, your guys' games have always come down to like one huge play that you couldn't quite convert.
Yeah.
And I think what changes things this season is Joe Green. So obviously we know about Hendricks, we know about the big plays, we know about the defense. I think the big difference is quarterback. He's not superstar. He doesn't have, the crazy abilities. He doesn't have escape artist where you can, cheese and run around in the backfield. But that 90 speed or 91 speed, whatever he has, I feel gives you just enough that you're going to be able to hit one of those rollout plays where you can get a big chunk on third down when you're boxed by the defense. Or you're not going to have that one super errant throw that just buries you early on in the game.
Yeah.
So I think Joe Green is the difference this year. I'm picking the Jaguars, and I'm pretty confident in it.
All right, so let's move
And that's
over
gonna
to
totally
the
end up on a video if you lose.
yeah.
So
Yeah, me too,
please don't
probably.
lose.
All right, so we've got the AFC done. NFC time. So we've got the Rams. They've got a first round bye, and then it's going to be you against the Eagles, Rowan against QP, and then D-Muse against Dump as it sits right now. Obviously, that bottom half of that NFC playoff side is pretty wide open, at least for those couple teams that are still in it. But we'll go with this, and obviously, Meats we're pretty sure is going to be out. So you against Clink, what do you think?
Oh man, the rivalry matchup for sure. Love seeing all four members of the Thanos Club should be represented. Unfortunately, one's gonna go home in the first round, and it's gonna be Clink. So sorry, big guy. Happy to see you. Enjoy your stay. Don't get too comfy.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be there very long. Now, obviously, Clink, and you guys have probably played for a while together, so maybe he knows you a little better than some of these other teams. But at the end of the day, it's not going to matter. I mean, you could have easily been the number one seed. RD obviously having a great season, so he went undefeated, made it tough. And you really only struggled in the beginning of the year, and since then, it's been pretty much blowouts.
Yeah, the Helen Keller ebook reared its ugly head in the first 5 weeks.
I'm trying to think of a way Clink makes this a game.
I mean, he knows every single one of my plays and every single one of my reads. So, like,
yeah, the problem is
that
his
going for
too.
him. Yes.
So if all things being equal that way, I gotta lean towards the Vikings by a lot. Maybe you take it easy on him, make it look a little closer so he doesn't feel so bad. But yeah, it's probably the easiest game out of all these to pick, other than Prime and Woods. All right, so next up would be the Giants and Washington. Rowan had a pretty good start to this season. I mean, he was right up there. Needed RD to slip up, and he could have been in that number one spot for a little bit. And then QP, on the other hand, he's been kind of having these Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde seasons where he's goes on a streak of losing games, then comes back with like 11 straight wins. And Rowan's kind of had his number this season. I think they split this year, actually.
I think Q swept him. This season, Q swept him.
Oh, maybe he did. Maybe it was last season I'm thinking of. But
you are thinking of last season because Keegan finally got over the hump.
That's right.
And then this season it went right back to where it was before.
That's right. So the difference this season is Rowan's probably going to win the division for the first time and keep QP from sweeping since he's been in the league.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to go QP in this game. Rowan, we've already seen it. He lost the field. He lost to Clink just this week. I think maybe we're seeing that slide that he tends to have every once in a while. It's a little later than usual. Usually starts off with like 6-7 wins and then slides. Now he's made it to where he's pretty much locked up the division, but the slide is starting. And I think facing QP, who's kind of had his number, real familiar with him, I think that's going to be just too much for him. And I think QP is going to take this one.
Yeah, I think this is the worst possible first round matchup for Rowe. Um, I would say that he'd probably be favored in just about any of the other games, potentially even including me. Um, but unfortunately, like Q really does have his number. Um, I'm gonna go different than you because we've agreed on every single matchup here.
Uh-huh.
This one is just about as much of a coin flip as it could be. Um, I think history favors Q. Obviously, Q has really kind of dominated Rowan so far this cycle, but I think with 2 wins already, it's tough to beat a team 3 times in the season. I'm gonna take Rowan and the Giants.
Okay. So you got Rowan and the Giants. So that'll make this a little more difficult when we do the next rounds. We should have agreed more.
Yeah.
But
Well, we needed to hit an hour, so
that's right. Didn't really think that too far ahead. Okay, so third game is D-Muse and Dump, and I want to go Dump, but man, it's every season. Every season he comes in, he just beat Meats, pretty much knocked Meats out of the playoffs. So that's a big win for Dump. I know, the dislike there is pretty real. Um,
that counts as a playoff win in Dump's mind.
D-Muse, I thought he started out kind of slow. He had a couple losses. He beat Prime on like that Hail Mary at the end of the game. Um, I was kind of ready to write him off almost as a fluke, and then he comes back and he's played really well since then.
Yeah.
With the exception of just getting slaughtered by the Vikings the other night. So I'm gonna go to D-Muse. We've kind of brought up the common theme of history, and the history with Dump is he's probably going to lose in the first round. So I'm going to give it to D-Muse. I think the game is a toss-up, but at the end of the day, I think it's going to be D-Muse.
Yeah, he's for sure the smarter money. The big thing pretty much all season is Dump gets, a ton of hype going to the playoffs, and as soon as he gets there, everybody watches him play defense, and they're like, dude, I don't understand how you have as many wins as you do. Um, and I think that's going to eventually just rear its head again. DMU very smart with the football. We've talked about a lot. Doesn't have CMC, which could hurt. But honestly, you're not running much against the Niners front anyway. So this game's going to come down to defense and defense. They played a shootout earlier this season. I think DMU did win the game. I'm pulling that up right now. But I know it was pretty high scoring.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, it was high scoring for one team. D-Muse dropped 42 on him.
Yeah.
42-20. That's probably all I need to see. We're going to stick with the Panthers in this one.
Yeah, again, probably a bad matchup for Dump.
Yeah.
But really, Edens, and I think it was us that was talking about this earlier. Edens isn't exactly lighting the league on fire.
Right.
He's been, I don't want to say average, because his numbers haven't been average necessarily, and I'm gonna pull it up just so I don't misquote this. But Edens, got an ad for bath towels. Hang on, Daddy Leagues.
So I do have them here. It looks like it's improved since we talked about this last. He's at 261 attempts, which God bless his legs.
Yeah.
1,623 yards, 20 touchdowns, 6.2 yards a carry, and then he also has 25 receptions for another 241 yards and no scores.
Yeah, so his game against Meats, he averaged 12.7 a carry, and that got him back up over 6 because he was under 6 for a while. You look against.
I think wasn't he under 5 at one point?
He may have been under. I don't know if he was quite under. I'd have to.
I know he was close when we were talking about it.
Yeah, he played D-Muse 19 for 77. Average 4.1.
Yeah, D-Muse is not the defense that you're going to get, tons of yards and stats against.
Yeah, but you would think the Bears would be. And against Figs, 8 carries, 41 yards, averaged 5.1.
That's less easy to defend.
And then plays Woods, 20 carries, 113 yards, and 5.7. So for whatever reason, Edens has been not as effective, I guess you could say. And I don't know if it's more. I don't know what it could be.
Yeah.
It seems like he should be getting better as it goes on, but either teams are figuring out how to stop him or Dump's just not playing well right now. Mm-hmm. So definitely going with D-Muse in that one. But in that event, so we would have, if it's D-Muse and Rowan that move on, then D-Muse will then play RD. If this happens, I'm taking RD. He's played really well. Like this whole season, he's played really well. He's 16-0, or I guess that's a little premature, but he's going to be 16-0. So I think he goes through D-Muse. D-Muse, I think, could give him trouble. He's got that really quick defense, and that could give RD some trouble. But God, Tua is playing out of his mind right now.
Yeah.
I think he just threw his first interception like a game or two ago. It's been really bad. His quarterback has like a perfect rating on the season before that interception. I mean, not one game. We're talking the entire season. He has a perfect rating. So if he's throwing that well, and then obviously Cam Akers is gonna Cam Akers. So I've got RD winning against D-Muse. Now, on the other hand, if he takes on QP, I don't think anything changes. I think it's the same outcome. I think he actually probably does a little better against QP. QP tends to like to air it out a little more, and I think that could result in a lot of turnovers. All right, so what do you think about those two matchups?
Yeah, I mean, you can't argue with how hot RD is. It would be borderline shocking if he doesn't end 16-0. He's passing the ball well. So much of that just comes down to if you don't put a billion in the box, Cam Akers is just going to run for a touchdown like every 3 plays. So, you got to take your chances and just hope that somehow he messes up through the air. And to this point, he hasn't done it. I will say that as far as bad matchups go, I think that D-Muse might be his only bad matchup. You have Derek Brown with the inside stuff. Eder Gross-Matos is stellar on the outside. He's got Brian Burns, very quick, very good, high shed. I think his other defensive tackle is not superstar, but I think he's good. And D-Muse plays, a good amount of user safety, which is usually a little better against the run. So I think as far as matchups go, I think D-Muse is the worst one, and he's the one I can see really pulling off an upset. If he can shake RD up a little bit, get him in a 3rd and long, thanks to, an inside stuff going off or something. He can force a turnover. Dante Jackson honestly plays wide receiver sometimes better than the wide receivers do. He's that fast. His man coverage is incredibly high. And D-Muse has, a relatively explosive offense with DJ Moore. So if those two play, especially with RD coming in 16-0, you're due for bad luck. I'm going to take the Panthers to upset. However, on the flip side, if he faces Q, I just don't think that the run defense is there enough. I think that is one that RD would take. I don't want to say handily, but I do think that he would move his way through that defense pretty well.
Yeah. All right, so the two possibilities for you would be Rowan and D-Muse as well. The D-Muse one, you just beat him week 15 really badly. I think if it comes down to that, we're just going to see a repeat. That was only 2 weeks ago. Not much is going to change, I don't think. And you've beaten him before. I know the Panthers have kind of had your number. Whether it almost doesn't even matter who the user is. It just for whatever reason is that Panthers logo gives you trouble. But maybe you got over that hump here in week 15, and so I don't think D-Muse will be a problem. But then we have Rowan, and Rowan gave you some issues in the playoffs last year. And, he was he was still talking about it in the sit down about that one play. If he just could have had that back, it could have been all different. You could have seen Rowan in the Super Bowl because he beat D-Muse this season. So I think Rowan could be a bad matchup for you. He's got Saquon Barkley, who's a problem. But I think maybe you took Rowan a little lightly in the playoffs. Kind of looking forward to that Super Bowl already, and I don't think you take him as lightly in this one. So I think the Vikings would pretty easily beat the Giants.
I can tell you certainly won't be taking him lightly. The kid can play. He is definitely not, a great matchup for me. Obviously, he, like Clink, like Q, they know a lot of what I want to do. So it's tough to take him by surprise like I can with some teams with play calling. And his run D is stellar. His run D has got to be the best in the league for sure. Which makes it tough in playoff games when you can't convert those, 3rd and shorts by just handing the ball off like you can in the regular season. Makes it a tougher game. So I think matchup wise, he's a really tough one for me. I think with D-Muse, maybe stylistically, there's some things I figured out that had me feeling pretty good last game. At this point, we've played a couple times, almost as much as I've played some guys in my division. So I feel like that's starting to help. I don't think there's no way it would be a blowout again. That was a perfect storm. But I do think I would beat D-Muse. Rowe, it's a different challenge for sure. I would not be excited about a matchup with Rowe. I'll pick myself just because I'm usually relatively confident about those things. But for sure, if there's somebody that I can really see knocking me out, it's Rowan.
All right. So that'll take us to the NFC Championship game, and it's probably the game that everybody wants to see. It's going to be you against RD. He played really well, and he had your number earlier this season. What was it, 31-3? So he played really well. Was able to kind of shut you down, which your offense is really what everybody talks about. This one would be tough, and I think it depends what Cam Akers or what Viking rush defense shows up. Because I mean, we've both played this game the entire cycle and seen the difference in some games where you turn on the PlayStation and one game, whoever the other team's running back is will not go down. It doesn't matter what you do, they're not going down. And then you play him 2 weeks later, and that guy can't do anything. I watched it all cycle with Nick Chubb and Derrick Henry. Start the year, those two, if they got going, it was over.
Yes.
And then you could play him again and completely shut down. So I think it's going to come down to what Akers comes out. Obviously, Tua, he's playing really well with that, but you're pretty opportunistic with those turnovers and get quite a few turnovers through the passing game. So I don't think that perfect passer rating would survive a matchup with the Vikings, especially not a second time and more prepared. That first matchup early in the season. So I'm going to lean towards the Vikings in this one because I don't think it's as much – your game's as much dependent on the run, which can be up and down as far as whether or not the guy takes over. And you were just here last season, so I'm gonna lean towards the Vikings in this one, unless Akers gets X-factored right off the bat, and then
then
it
it's
could get ugly.
Yeah, that's 100% what the game comes down to. It's how is the rush D going to play? Am I going to shed? Is Akers going to break a lot of tackles? If he's getting chunks right off the bat, I'm in trouble for sure. And that goes for just about anybody that RD is going to play. If Akers is getting 30 yards in his first 3 carries, you can probably just put the controller down. So, it is a matchup I want to see. I want to play it. I want the rematch. Obviously, earlier this season was ugly. I think ugly was probably putting it lightly. Thankfully, we kind of fixed the offensive line after that. The rush defense has been better since the trade with DW. I haven't had a ton of really big challenges. But when they've needed to, they've stepped up, and I felt good about them. So I like my chances if we meet again. But I definitely am not going to go into it confident. I'm going to beat him. I'm definitely going to beat him. No shot. There's definitely a shot. So it's going to be a good game. But I'll pick myself.
Yeah, and talking about that trade with DW, so that was week 8, week 9, right in between there. Since you made that trade though, you picked up I can't remember his name, but it was a superstar X Factor defensive tackle. Yep. You beat Dump, you beat D-Muse, you beat Dan, and now this week coming up, you'll have the opportunity to beat QP as well. That's a lot of playoff teams after a shaky start, but you haven't had a loss since week 8. So I think the team could be turning the corner.
Yeah, and the big thing is, looking at the defense, it's 17 points allowed per game, which is 4th. Obviously, good against the pass. That's kind of been my thing, and then awful against the run. Where I started against the run, to have them down to almost under 100 yards a game, which is disgustingly 13th. I am feeling good about that. Since the trade happened, it was week 9 was my first game with him because Meats ran the ball just all over me in week 8, and it made me sick. And so I immediately made the trade after that. Since then, I don't think I know Future went over 100 on me, but it was one run for 75, and then the rest of the game I think he had 10 to 12 runs for like 20 yards. So since then the run D has been better. I'm hoping that keeps up and that kind of boosts me through this playoff. So I'm hopes are high, expectations low. We'll go with.
All right. So with that playing out that way, then this would be the Heat Check Super Bowl. We would have me
Waiting for
against
it.
you. We split our 2 games this cycle.
Mhm.
I would feel pretty confident going into this one because our 2 games we split. The first game was bad. I think that was
You slaughtered me.
I ended up winning pretty handily that one.
Yes,
Second game,
crushed
I had a really good lead going into the halftime, and then it fell apart. There was a clock runoff that killed me at
Yep.
the end. Missed the chance of the game tying field goal, but I think it would be a really good game, and
Yes.
I'm obviously going to pick myself. So I picked myself to get this far. Might as well pick myself to win one more time. The
Right.
issue is going to be stopping that passing game, and conveniently, I do have what I feel is a pretty solid secondary. So I feel like if
Better,
that's
okay.
what I have to stop, I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, for sure. It plays into your strength, no doubt. I mean, if you're gonna pick yourself, I'll pick myself. I was gonna say if I'll pick you if you pick me,
Oh, hell
but
no.
if we're not gonna do that, then I'll just pick myself too, and we'll just have a heat check bowl, and we'll both pick ourselves to win.
That's
And
fine.
then
We can stop there. You said you were
see
going to
what
pick me.
happens.
So 2-0. We picked me. All
All
right.
right, there you go. 2-0. Bomber wins.
Yep. Finally, I win. We'll just cancel the rest of the season. Just hand me the
Yeah,
trophy now.
cancel it. You just send him the
Yeah.
trophy now.
No need to play it. All right, so that's been our. We went through the playoffs there, and that took us right to about 36 minutes. But due to a popular request from RD, which by the way, did you see that Heat Check was the number 2 show during the SML cycle according to DW's polls? So
I did. I'm very proud of that one, especially. I mean, first and goal like that. That's just too good of an idea. Gets everybody involved. Like that was a shoe in for number one. So really, Heat Check was number one in my
yeah, I
mind.
mean, without first and goal, Heat Check was the number 1 show. So
Exactly.
we took a lot of heat for heat. Get it? We took a
Uh,
lot of heat for topping that hour mark a couple times, closing in on the 90-minute mark, maybe even further. But uh, the people have spoken, and all 3 of them chose Heat Check as their favorite show. So so one of those I believe was RD, and RD wanted an hour show because he's a little busy. So we're gonna try and see if we can't push it out a little further. We came into this all only talking about the playoffs was our plan, but for RD, we've decided that we're going to go ahead and go over our top 5. What did we say? Teams to watch out for, most intriguing.
Most intriguing. Yep.
Yeah, some type of top 5 list. Faz is going to do the NFC. I'm going to do the AFC, and we'll kind of break down these 5 teams. Maybe a preview of team drafting for dummies. It'll be hopefully releasing as soon as we get the abilities and the superstar stuff. But we might as well just kick this off. We're already at 37 minutes. Who is your number 5, or in no order? I didn't put mine in any order, so who is one of your 5 most intriguing teams?
So I did put mine in order, but my
Okay.
5th most intriguing team in the NFC, I have the Arizona Cardinals. I haven't seen them talked about very much. In the early going, I'm wondering if part of that is because I mean Meats did well with them. He was relatively successful. Obviously, very tough division. He did make a Super Bowl in season 1. A couple playoff wins in there, but I feel like the team didn't necessarily develop well. So at this point, you have a lot of super teams, and I don't think anybody really talks about the Cardinals as one of them. However, looking at this roster, I feel like they're being slept on because they're a team that could very easily be a super team in Madden 21. Obviously, things start with a quarterback. Always, you're set. Kyler Murray, 24 years old. He's got 91 speed. He doesn't have the awful throwing mechanics that they always give Lamar. So you basically get, the baby version of Lamar, but you can throw the ball a little better. At least I always have. And then, you've got pieces without. So this is a team that can be good early. It can be good late. Early on, you've got Chandler Jones, J.J. Watt, who are both going to be, absolute beasts. Marcus Golden, you can rush the passer with him as well. So you're already started to be set on defense. You've got good young pieces. Byron Murphy. Isaiah Simmons is still broken. He had an awful NFL season, and EA said, we don't care one bit. He's still a god. 93 speed at strong safety, 85 change of direction. I mean, the guy's still going to be broken. And then you've got crazy fast wide receivers, Isabella, Rondell Moore, Andy Isabella. Isabella is a guy, honestly, with all the speed you already have and with Hopkins, I would trade him. You can get a lot for him. So you can, kick off building your team even more just by trading a guy that you already have a clone of, somewhere else in your offense. So Arizona's the team I feel not being talked about that I think somebody's going to get late in the team draft and be very happy with.
Yeah, one of the things you mentioned there that kind of stood out was you said trade Isabella, it's a strength, try to get something for him. And I think something that a lot of teams kind of make a mistake. I've only played CFMs for one full cycle now, not counting that season and a half I played as Pittsburgh here last cycle. So one full season, and I feel like I've learned or picked up quite a few different things. And one thing, especially with our trade rules and everything, you have to look at guys you have and see their potential, but not try to get them there before you move them.
Right.
You take Isabella, you make him a superstar. You've now locked yourself in with him for the cycle.
Yep.
Because once he's a superstar, if he's not going to hit 30 and under 94 or 31 under 94, it's over. He's now your guy unless you cut him. So I think the Cardinals, like you said, need to look at guys that are going to develop and maybe move them if they're at a position of strength. And that goes for every team.
Yes.
And with that, what a segue into what I'm about to talk about next, since I'd real quick ordered my teams as well. Nice. My number 5 most intriguing team in the AFC is going to be the Denver Broncos. We saw what Dan did with them this cycle. Dan had no problem turning that team into one of the most talented teams in the league. And if I had to pick a weakness, it would probably have been secondary for his team. And what did they do? They go out and they draft Patrick Surtain. They sign Ronald Darby. They get Kyle Fuller. So their corners, you've got Kyle Fuller at an 87. You've got Bryce Callahan at an 86. All these, mind you, 91 or better speed. You've got Ronald Darby at an 80. And then way down the list as the number 4 corner, you've got Patrick Surtain, a first-round rookie who could very likely be the top corner in the league, or in the draft anyway, so probably going to be a superstar dev. If you look at last year, you had C.J. Henderson and Okudah both get superstar. So I wouldn't be surprised to see J.C. Horn and Surtain come away with superstar. So you've got a superstar possible corner there. Quarterback, yeah, you've got Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater. But we saw Dan turn Drew Lock into a really usable quarterback until he went to New England. So I think you've got potential there. Melvin Gordon is going to come in as an 85 overall running back with 91 speed. The rest of the running backs, not that great. The rookie, Javonte Williams, only 87 speed. So depending how speed kind of plays a factor this cycle, I don't know if necessarily 87 is going to be good enough. I mean, anybody that played the demo saw that it was significantly slower than the PS4 version of Madden 21.
Right.
It was pretty much in line with PS5 Madden 21, which from their notes sounds like they're going to kind of stick with that. They widened the gap between the fast guys and the slow guys, but for the most part, they're going to stay with a slower game. So maybe even the 87 isn't that bad because everybody's going to be slow. But the team is really well off. You're talking about Bradley Chubb. They've got Von Miller. They've really got a good team. Kareem Jackson at strong safety. He's going to come in under that sub linebacker threshold as far as speed. He's got an 87 speed. You know the receivers because Dan's done really well with Sutton, Judy, and Hamler. I just think that they're a really interesting team. Justin Simmons at a 91 at the other safety position. And they may get overlooked because of the division they're in. You know, we talk about the mock draft that we did. You got Coop taking KC. I think we had Mike taking the Chargers. And I don't want to jinx RD. You know, we're doing this, pushing it out late for RD, but I got some bad news for RD because Figs has been talking about he wants the fastest receiver and all this speed.
Yep.
You got Ruggs is going to be fast. Waller's coming in as a 90-plus speed tight end. So the Raiders could very well go to Figs. If you got a division with Coop, Figs, and Mike, and you have a chance to take the Broncos, I think you have a really good chance, especially if you're a guy like, I don't know, Tiny, who just got his ass beat for 8 seasons. You know, I don't think anybody would argue that that was probably the toughest division in the SML, and he just got his ass beat every season. 4th place, just lock it in. Tiny's 4th place. So I think if he could get the Broncos and that mock draft kind of falls that way, man, that'd be a different cycle for Tiny, and I could see definitely some playoff appearances there. So Broncos are my number 5 team.
Yeah, for sure. That team's gonna be a lot of fun. And obviously when you see somebody like Dan take them and build them up the way they do, that instantly bumps the intrigue up because you see their potential.
Yep.
So my number 4 team in the NFC is only at number 4 because this is not a best team list. If this was a best team list, I think this is my number 1 team. I have the San Francisco 49ers, and the only reason they're lower on intriguing is just because everybody knows they're going to be good. Yeah. But also they just have too many fun pieces to leave off of this list. This team is loaded. You start out with Kittle, you start out with Fred Warner, who is, an absolute freak show. Your defensive line is insane. You don't have to touch it the entire cycle. Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, D Ford. They added Maurice Hurst to go along with Kinlaw on the inside. This defensive line is loaded. The only thing you really need to touch is, your secondary. The secondary is pretty old, not a ton of young pieces. Emmanuel Mosley is young at 25. The rest of this, though, they're a little older. You do have SML legend Tony Jefferson that you could have some fun with. But obviously the big selling point of the team, Trey Lance, he's got 87 speed. He's, he can throw the ball. He's 21, rookie contract. He is, you trade Garoppolo right off the bat if you can. You stick with this guy from the start. You're set at quarterback for the cycle, and he's going to be a really, really fun one. He's looking at 91 throw power off the bat, and EA was not generous with throw power ratings. So he's, already off to a good start there. His accuracies are not bad, 85, 79, 79. They're intriguing for me. Even if the rest of the roster sucked, they would be intriguing just for Lance. When you add a good roster on top of it, they are going to be a blast. Whoever gets them is going to be a lucky person. Did I lose you? I can't hear anything.
Oh, yeah. I had my mic muted.
There you go.
But what I was going to say was Trey Lance, yeah. He's going to be fun to play with. He's got good speed. Like you said, that throw power hasn't been there's a lot of guys with some really low throw powers.
Yes.
Daniel Jones, 87. I forget some of the other. What is it? Mac Jones is like 85. I mean,
yeah, Mac Jones is like unusable right out the gate.
Yeah. So a 91 is high end throw power, at least the way it looks so far. And then you combine that with the speed. He's going to be star or better dev. There's no way he's normal at the 3rd pick. I think they're going to be fun to play with. And one of the things that kind of makes them fun for me is they're going to have a pass rusher. You got Nick Bosa there, that front 7 with Armstead, and then Warner in the middle. They're going to be a fun team to play with and see how teams will build around what they have. And the only knock on them I have is they're going to be missing 1st round picks for a while. They moved up to get Lance. But really, with that team, you can take a 2nd round pick and develop them over 2 years, and you'll be just fine.
For sure.
You don't exactly have holes in that roster. All right, so my number 4 most intriguing team, just like you stayed in the NFC West, I'm going to go ahead and stay in the AFC West, and mine is the Chargers. I think this is the team that should probably go pretty high in the draft. Whether or not they will, I don't know. You do have to face the Chiefs. We talked about the Broncos. But the Chargers are a really good team. You got Chris Harris, Michael Davis, and Asante Samuel Jr., the rookie they drafted. 3 decent cornerbacks. Other than Harris, the other 2 are 92 speed, so they've got a little bit of speed. You've got Adderley at the other free safety spot, which could be kind of a spot you want to shore up. You do have 88 speed there out of him, so he's a sub linebacker, which has been big. Eckler, we saw what DW did with Eckler. The guy's a 92 speed, and he can clearly carry the ball for 400 times a season and do just fine. And then the defense. This is really where I get excited about the Chargers is the rest of the defense. You got Joey Bosa. He's going to get to the quarterback about every time. And then you've got Derwin James. So Bosa, Derwin James, and then Kenneth Miller. Those three guys are going to make this, or Kenneth Murray. Those three guys are going to make the defense fun to play with. We saw what QB and DW did with that defense last season. Yep. Now they're going to get a little bit better, adding Samuel to the mix. And then you got Justin Herbert. He's going to be a young quarterback that you can take and just keep him for the whole cycle. And I think they're going to be one of the more intriguing teams. They could use a little more speed on the receiver position with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams both being under 90. But I think they're going to be fun to play with.
Yeah, for sure. And it's, interesting that you highlight that lack of speed at wide receiver, because my next team on the list is the New York Giants. And the reason that segues is because this team has so much speed at wide receiver. You could easily trade some of this off, maybe add a little bit of defense, add some extra picks from the Chargers. Could be a very mutually beneficial agreement. But this team is stellar, and I didn't realize it at first. Matt has been kind of pounding the table on this Giants roster for a couple weeks now. I really dove into it when the ratings came out, and man, he hit the nail on the head. This team is very good. You start out with a very good secondary right off the bat. They're young, they're developable. You've got, Adoree Jackson. Your safeties are very good. Xavier McKinney is a perfect sub linebacker, 86 speed, 85 change of direction. So right there, all of his other attributes can be completely crap, but because of those two, he's going to be a star. You're going to get, most likely a development game or some kind of dev boost for him.
Yep.
So you're probably looking at a superstar off the first season with him. You've got Bradbury, who is, stellar ratings, still 28. So you've got, a couple seasons before regression starts to hit him. Evan Ingram stinks in real life, straight up bricks for hands, but he is a Madden god, 89 speed. We've seen the boost that he's given to your Jaguars team. And then, I haven't even mentioned the best part of the team, which is Saquon Barkley, who's just absolutely a stud, 24 years old, 92 speed out the gate. He's, near impossible to tackle. That's going to be the same from Madden to Madden. And Daniel Jones is workable. I brought up that throw power, not a ton of guys have great throw power in this next game, so it's not something you're going to be looking for right off the bat. He is, if I can find it on this sheet, he's at 87, which is not great, but it's not a death sentence. He has 88 speed, so you're going to be able to, make some plays in the backfield, and he's 24. So, maybe you get a couple dev tokens, you get lucky on a couple throw powers, you can get him up into that, 88, 89, 90 range, which, is easily good enough to capitalize on the John Ross, the Kadarius Toney, the Kenny Golladay. The team is, just oozing with speed. So they're going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we actually brought this team up on a Battle at the Border earlier this morning, and that was exactly what I was talking about. Like, they're loaded on offense.
Yep.
Daniel Jones, maybe 87 throw power, but that 88 speed makes him usable. I think anytime your quarterback has a higher speed than your throw power, then throw power doesn't matter. If he's 83 throw power, but he's like an 85 speed, like Russell Wilson, it works out fine. You can find
buys
ways.
You enough time that somebody's going to get open.
Exactly.
Yep.
So you don't have to worry about those tight windows and throwing from the pocket. So that's something to look at. Higher speed than throw power, you're fine. But yeah, and then in addition to everything you mentioned, they've got an extra first round pick from the Bears. So
didn't even think about that.
Yep. So
man, that team's good.
Yeah. Now the only thing is, and I said this earlier, was if I'm Matt and I want the Giants, maybe I tone down talking about the Giants because
he played it poorly for sure.
Yeah, there's gonna be somebody out there that doesn't know what team they want, and they'll be like, you know what, Matt said the Giants are great. I'm gonna take the Giants. So, speaking of teams that are gonna be taken really early and not don't really need anybody to pound the desk for them though, it's gonna be the Jaguars. They come in as my number 3 most intriguing team, and I think it's probably for obvious reasons. You've got Trevor Lawrence, who's gonna probably come in as an X factor quarterback. He's your quarterback for the cycle. There's no need to worry about the quarterback position. And then on top of that, you've got Travis Etienne. He's going to come in as your running back. and he's already coming in as a 92 speed, 76 overall, 22 years old. There's your running back for the cycle. If you don't feel like developing one, if it's not as easy as it was this year. The defense with Josh Allen, Miles Jack, everybody that I've become intimately familiar with this cycle, they're all should develop pretty well. Now, Allen, they moved to a right outside linebacker. He's not a defensive end now, and with our rules, you can't move him. So that may change the way the Jaguars build or develop, but you still got DJ Chark, his overall has gone down, but his speed's still 94. So you got a speed receiver there. You're adding Marvin Jones instead of D.D. Westbrook, which is a nice upgrade. You still have the Sidney Jones and C.J. Henderson tandem at cornerback, but they also added Shaquille Griffin with his 94 speed, 85 overall. James Robinson, he's your best rated player on the team at 86, tied with Miles Jack. 86 speed, probably not useful, but I'll bet you can trade him to somebody. You could easily trade an 86 overall running back, 23 years old, to somebody, and you just lean on ETN, and if you had to, hide. You've got Laviska Shenault, you've got Joe Schobert, plenty of guys that are going to be good enough. And then you have all your picks. You're not missing anything. Clavon Chason is going to be a good defensive end. I think I had him up to superstar before I traded him, but with that 85 speed, he'll be more than efficient at that linebacker or defensive end spot. So I think the Jaguars, just the way they developed this year, I'm interested in them as my number 3 most interesting team, just to see how they develop again next year with someone else, which appears to be Woods, but we'll see if he kind of gets a little more nervous about the GOAT effect as time gets closer with that team draft.
I am definitely hoping for it. Let him fall, let him fall, let him fall. I'm all for it, but I'm not going to get him, so I've pretty much just shut that idea down in my head. They're going to be a ton of fun. Word of the wise for whoever gets them. Please don't waste a ton of time on James Robinson. It's not going to be worth it. I promise you. You can use him in short yardage situation if fatigue plays a factor. You can rotate him in there, but Etienne's going to turn into a monster. Please use him. Treat him well. And that's all I can ask.
It's kind of funny, though, because Woods had Chubb and Hunt, and he held on to Hunt too long and had to let him go. And I hope he doesn't do the same thing with James Robinson. Get what you can and get rid of him.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Use him maybe that first season, and then try and ship him at the draft, and then draft a guy to spell Etienne with. That would be my advice, but you don't have to listen if you don't want. So my number 2 intriguing team in the NFC, and I think the key emphasis here is on intriguing because this team has holes, and you're going to have to fill a little bit more than some of these other teams we've talked about. But it's the Atlanta Falcons, and I was very curious to see in chat Lawyer talking about maybe this is the season he doesn't take them. They don't look good enough. I was very surprised to see that because this team has some really nice pieces spread throughout it. Obviously, Calvin Ridley at 26, already an 88 overall, 93 speed. He is going to be, a wide receiver 1 in absolutely no time. Honestly, he probably starts out as 1, but he's going to be an elite wide receiver fast. Grady Jarrett is a stud, going to have good abilities again, I'm sure. And he really didn't regress much this Madden. We are 8 seasons in, and he is still a stud for that Falcons team. So that means next game you're probably getting a minimum of 7 seasons out of him before you even have to worry about it. Deion Jones, 90 speed at linebacker. Everybody knows he's good, but I don't think they know about this name is just going to
Foyesade whatever.
Aloha. He is also a 90 speed linebacker, which means you can just let the AI take Deion Jones and his great ratings, and he's going to fly around the field and stuff people. You can use her Alua Khan, and you can still wreak havoc with that combo. And then obviously you've got a young secondary. AJ Terrell Jr. is 22, Isaiah Oliver's 24, Kendall Sheffield 25. They all are 90 speed or better. And then the biggest part of the team that I think makes them the most intriguing is you have just an absolute freak show at tight end in Kyle Pitts. He's 20 years old. He's 91 speed. He's a rookie contract. He is a matchup nightmare. I don't throw to tight ends much in my offense. I can tell you right now, if I had him, I'd spam the heck out of him. He looks absolutely unstoppable right out the gate, and he's going to develop to easily a 99 probably by, season 3 if you
Yeah.
use him even slightly. So, he's obviously the big draw, but there's a lot of interesting pieces on this team that, in the right hands, the Falcons could be really, really dangerous.
Yeah, and then I mean, not even bringing up that you got Matt Ryan, who I believe is on the last year of his deal.
Yep.
So he's I think it was 85 overall for Matt Ryan. If he doesn't
Yep.
come in as a superstar, and I would have to check his age. I'm not sure of that.
36.
36. So 85 overall, 36. He's already tradable, even if he is a superstar. So I would probably move Matt Ryan if I'm not sold on him and I want to get rid of him and maybe draft my quarterback of the future or whatever. That's a huge trade chip there that you can get something decent from, especially starting the cycle, because there's teams that aren't going to have a quarterback. There's no draft till after the first season, so you're already playing with what you got basically.
Yep.
Especially a team like Washington, you probably get a decent pick from Washington for a quarterback, because that's the only thing holding that team back is a
For
quarterback.
sure. For sure.
And
Oh,
then
and I didn't even bring it up. I meant to. You have JV and Hawkins, 21-year-old running back. He starts out at 90 speed. He's got 84 juke right out the box. This is a guy you're going to be able to develop to something very good, and you don't have to waste a pick on a running back.
yeah,
You can start developing him, right out the gate, and you're good to go. And you can start using, picks on pass rush or whatever else you might feel that you need, maybe some safeties. So they're in a good spot for sure.
yeah, I think they're in a really good spot. Like I said, Grady Jarrett was just a monster this cycle, so
Yes.
I don't see that changing anytime soon. A team that doesn't really have many monsters, though, my number 2 team is the Jets. Cap space, they've got still one Seattle pick. They've got Carolina's second-round pick for Sam Darnold, and then they've already got the rookie quarterback. You're talking about Zach Wilson. I think it was 94 throw power already, 83 speed. He's going to come in and he's going to be good enough that he's going to be your quarterback for the rest of the cycle. So you don't need to even worry about a quarterback. But the team needs some work. They're not very good. The good news is they do have most of their talent is stacked on the defensive side of the ball. So if you're a team that can't really or doesn't feel comfortable developing the defensive side, you've got Williams at defensive tackle, Marcus May at safety, C.J. Mosley, Carl Lawson. You've got LaMarcus Joyner there. You got Sheldon Rankins there. John Myers Franklin, 24-year-old defensive end. He's a 77 overall. You've got Fatu Casey, whatever the hell his name is. He's a defensive tackle. So if you look at their team, they're pretty loaded on the defensive side of the ball. You've even got a free safety with 92 speed in Ashton Davis. You've got a solid offensive line, not all, but 2 of them on rookie contracts. So you're not paying a fortune for them like some guys do, like New Orleans. And you've got Corey Davis, decent receiver. You've got a couple other decent ones. Jamison Crowder. I saw a superstar list with X Factors today. I don't know how accurate it is because I don't think it even had Nick Chubb as an X Factor, which EA just said he was. But it had Jamison Crowder as a superstar. So
Interesting.
I assume it's probably some type of like return abilities or something. But return abilities in the open field could help you as well.
Yeah.
And just with basically the blank canvas they have and a couple decent pieces like Becton and Zach Wilson, I think the Jets could be one of the more intriguing teams. I would have liked to see them last cycle with someone other than Latin. I think Latin didn't do a great job with them. They had tons of
He
picks
didn't
to
do any
start.
job with them.
But they have half the picks now, and they have a quarterback. So it'd basically be like if he drafted a quarterback with that first season and came up with Zach
And that
Wilson.
quarterback is a stud as far as Madden ratings go.
Yeah, Zach Wilson should be really good. So
Yes.
I'm interested to see how the Jets go. And the division isn't tough. You've got the Bills in there, but the Patriots shouldn't be too bad. And the Dolphins are probably a year or 2 away from being really good.
Yep.
So at least the first season, you should be able to compete.
Yeah, for sure. They're a team that's, definitely on the radar and should be for a lot of teams that maybe haven't been just because of how we saw them in Madden 21. How we saw them in Madden 21 is not how they're going to be in Madden 22. So I think that's something key to keep in mind. So my number one intriguing team in the NFC, again, another team I haven't seen anybody talk about to this point, which maybe I should keep this to myself, but hey, you win some, you lose some. It is the Carolina Panthers. We've talked a lot about D Muse's team and how they're very good. And then for whatever reason, it hasn't been brought up as far as, Madden 22 goes. And this team is stellar. You have, speaking of fast teams like the Giants, this team probably rivals the Giants on speed. And the interesting part about them is it's not purely on offense. It is on defense too. Looking at the secondary, you have Jeremy Chin, who's coming in at 93 speed. He's 23 years old. Dante Jackson, 25 years old. He has 96 speed. And then they drafted J.C. Horn, who's 21 years old at 92 speed. That's just your secondary. That's a safety and two corners. That is going to be a nightmare to pass on, because then on top of that, I didn't even bring up Troy Pride Jr., another cornerback, 23 years old, 93 speed. So this team is fast in the secondary, and then they can get to the quarterback. You have two 88 speed pass rushers in Brian Burns and Hassan Reddick. You have Derek Brown, who just stuffs people up the middle. You have Eder Gross-Matos, who is, another freak show on the defensive line. Wide receiver, you have, Robbie Anderson, who's 95 speed and catches, every contested ball ever. You have DJ Moore, who's 93 speed. We've seen D-Muse terrorize some teams with him. And they drafted Terrace Marshall, who's coming in at 91 speed and 21 years old. So you're going to be able to develop him into a freak. The big question mark on the team is Sam Darnold. He is 88 throw power. He's not super fast, only 78 speed. Depends on how he throws. If they give him the errant pass trait, whatever that is, he could suck. You might need to replace him. Thankfully, the Panthers only give up a second for him, so you still have your first-round pick. You still have some trade ammo that, you can move up into a draft if need be and get a quarterback. But Darnold's also only 24, so if he's not terrible out of the box, it's somebody you could potentially work with and build as the cycle goes. And you have so many pieces that you probably don't need to rely too much on your quarterback, because if all else fails, you just give the ball to 97 overall Christian McCaffrey and you watch him go.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be a fun team. Darnold at quarterback. I actually, a couple times this cycle, looked at Darnold when he was in free agency and on some teams where he wasn't being utilized. He's not awful.
No.
If you need a quarterback, you can use him, and I think he'll be good enough there in Carolina, especially with the pieces they have around him.
Yes.
And then all you lost for him was a second-round pick. Not a big deal. Because I think whoever has that team is going to be near the top of their division, if not for that Buccaneers team.
So, yeah.
All right, so my number one team is going to be the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins are a tough team to think is not going to be intriguing. You've got extra picks. You've got decent cap, and you have a really good team too. You've got Xavier Howard and Byron Jones, your top two players on the roster, both corners. So your secondary is going to be pretty good, because that's not even counting two more guys in Jason McCourty and Justin Coleman, both sitting at 79, just outside that 80 range. You've got Eric Rowe at safety. He's sitting at, 81. And then you've got Brandon Jones, no big deal. It's a 70. The only thing I don't see, and maybe I'm missing it, is a free safety. Oh, there we go. Javon Holland, 74 overall. So they're secondary, with the exception of the safeties. You might want to pick up a safety, but really that's not where what makes this team good. They're gonna have Tua. Now, if you can get past the lefty quarterback, which some people don't like the lefty quarterback, some don't mind it. Obviously, RD is one of those guys that he doesn't seem to care. But either way, he's a young quarterback on a fairly good deal. 73 overall, so I think they knocked him down a little bit. Still got that 82 speed. And his throw power, I got to pull that back up. His throw power is going to be 88, so it's not bad. It's definitely usable.
Yep.
And they've got Jalen Phillips, who is should be a really good pass rusher. He's 22 years old, starts at a 72 with 86 speed. He's going to develop into something good. That was their second first-round pick. But the thing that makes this team really good And I'll list one more defensive player real quick. Jerome Baker, 89 speed, middle linebacker at 24 years old. Seen what Paulie's done with him. He's really good. Emmanuel Ogba at left end. So the defense is good. Defense is not like some atrocious defense that you're just going to get lit up for 50 points a game and have to, try to keep up. But the real draw to this team for me, besides their extra draft capital, is this offense. If you can get past Tua being left-handed, you've got Will Fuller, 95 speed. You've got Devontae Parker, who's a big body receiver. You've got Mike Gesicki, 83 speed tight end, who's going to be really good. And then if you scroll a little further down on their list, you've got that first-round pick, Jalen Waddle, 97 speed. Dude's going to be good. You've already seen. Look at the teams that have the fast receivers. Look what Future's done with Ruggs. What ZZ's done with Tyreek Hill. What Finns has done with that guy Wiggins he drafted. If you have a fast receiver, you're going to be able to get him the ball, especially after EA just put out their little dev notes or whatever and said that they're widening the gap between the fast guys and the rest of the league. A guy like Waddle is going to be insane, and that's combining him with Will Fuller too at 95 speed. So these guys are going to be really tough. The speed is just so fast that it's going to make mismatches all over the field. The only real knock I got on them is their running backs. You got Myles Gaskin, not great. Malcolm Brown, not great. Salvin Ahmed, I don't even know. And Patrick Laird, Jordan Scarlett, Jared Dokes, all a bunch of no-name guys. Probably won't even make the final roster. If they pick up a running back, this team becomes exponentially better. But even if they don't, we've seen the last couple Maddens, running backs not hard to develop as long as you've got decent speed, which they've got two with 90 speed, and those 88 speeds are usable. And that's not counting, free agency is going to have guys on the free agent roster as soon as we start, and it's that mad dash as soon as the cycle starts to see who you can get there. If I'm the Dolphins, I just make a mad dash for the running back, get the fastest guy with the best highest change of direction, and call it good. And then use one of those first round picks to draft something. But I think really what makes them intriguing is all the speed they have, all the picks they have, and then they're a young team. There's not going to be much you have to do with this team other than develop them, and then you're just plugging in pieces as you get them. All right, so that's going to do it for our team breakdowns. And as RD requested, we have hit 1 hour and 12 minutes, so we're good there. I think we mission accomplished. RD can spend the next hour and 12 listening to Heat Check. Feel free to just have the nurses put it on the overhead and let the entire hospital listen to it. It's got to be better than whatever they're listening to.
I'm sure.
So I don't have anything else. I don't know if you've got anything else, any burning thoughts you want to get off your chest. It's been a while since we did Heat Check, but
yeah, no, I should be good to go. I'm ready to get these playoffs started. I'm ready to see these matchups and see a couple people fold, I'm sure, and hopefully we get some good commentated games. It's going to be a good time. Let's close this cycle out strong, boys.
Yeah, I think we're on pace to do really well. It seems like with the 48-hour advance, we're already almost done with this week, and we just advanced last night. So yeah, I'm excited for that, and definitely Madden 22. More so excited for that, probably.
Much more excited for that for sure.
Yeah. But all right, guys. Well, this has been Heat Check, and we're at a minute almost 15, so we're gonna call it good there. You guys enjoy your weekend.
Let me get a heat check, heat check, heat check, heat check, heat check, heat check, heat. Can I get a heat check, heat check, heat check, heat check, yeah, heat check. Heat check, heat check, heat check, heat check, heat check, heat check, heat check. Let me get a heat check, heat check, heat check, heat check.